Hi everyone, welcome to The Grind. We are going on week 4 of the series, Right Living, where we're studying the book of Titus, and we're talking about right living towards each other and basically addressing the different generations at church and how like a healthy generation looks like in each life stage. So first of all, what does a healthy lifestyle look to you guys?
I guess eating fruits for breakfast.
It sounds like a very Asian parent thing.
No, I was at the pantry and I had bananas or cherries for breakfast.
Yeah.
And then other colleagues commented, "Oh, you're so healthy. You eat fruits for breakfast." And I was like, I'm forced to eat fruits because I get so much allergy and inflammation from bread and or McDonald's.
Oh, I guess you have dietary restrictions, so hence fruits.
Well, a generic way of saying it, I think someone with a healthy lifestyle is like someone disciplined, balanced, taking care of themselves, like stewarding what they have.
Yeah. I mean, it involves also exercise, and something that's just ingrained in my mind is that you have to drink 1 cup of water before the day begins to cleanse your system. I was like, Dad, where'd you get that from? He's like, oh, it's some WhatsApp message. I was like, really? And then another person I know, like younger, said it as well. I was like, maybe it's legit. Maybe it is good to drink 1 cup of water before the day begins. But yeah, exercise, sleep, like enough, not just like minimal sleep.
Consistent schedule.
Yes, consistent schedule. I mean, sometimes it is hard to be consistent, especially in like busy seasons, but a lot of it has to do with, consistency, but definitely diet, exercise, and also maybe the community that you have as well has a lot.
Yeah.
So
mentally healthy.
Yeah, mentally healthy, because healthy is not just physical, it's mental and spiritual too. And speaking about spiritual, that's what we're going to talk about today.
Wow.
So I think one of the things that's repeated throughout the book of Titus is sound doctrine. And it's not just biblical content, but it's also biblical conduct. And so something that's talked about is that a healthy church has 4 generations, which is kind of true if you think about it within ICA. And so like the older is to be the example to the younger. And I think one thing that it's important to bear in mind is that age is never a defining factor of whether someone is like super spiritual or super emotionally mature. So I don't know, have you guys met some people who are either wise beyond their years or not, or vice versa?
I think I've met a fair share. Actually, I'll give 2 examples, both Christian and non-Christian context. Yeah. I think the first person who was very knowledgeable, and not in the Christian context, is the first person I discovered who really made me realize that there's a fan base for the buses, for KMB buses. Yeah. Have you seen this fan base for the KMB buses?
No, what's special about
they
that?
They love buses. Like, I cannot emphasize that even more.
They run out to the road to take photos.
Yeah,
but why?
They use apps to track a specific type of bus to get pictures of it. And so this is like someone like with such vast knowledge coming from someone young I didn't expect from. Yeah. They exist.
I was like, that's so random. Why buses? Why KMB
buses? I was
buses?
on the bus. I was like, why is there so many people taking pictures of this bus?
Okay.
But then in the Christian context, I think it's almost the same thing. There's this missionary who just came to Hong Kong who ministered at ICA and our youth camp, and he's like only in his early 20s, and I remember I was talking with my youth pastor, and my youth pastor was asking questions to him about giftings and blessings, and this guy was just going on and on and on, and I was like, wow, I feel like we've only touched the surface. And I think it's just these things that people are so passionate about, they could go on for so deep. So not necessarily wise for a majority, but like I've met a lot of people who are wise in specific topics.
True, actually. Maybe wise in specific topics.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the bus fan.
Yeah,
because he's one of them.
Because in general, I think boys or men like machinery.
Yep. Oh, yeah, I guess boys like the machines.
Yeah, and this all those Enviro 500 or the Man or the Volvo type. Like, you really like those variations. I'm a airplane guy, I guess.
Oh
So-
man, you should meet a lot of.
So-
I know so many youths that you'd have a fun
Yeah,
chat
so
with.
so you notice the difference between Boeing and Airbus and like twin engines and single
Yep.
engines and
I
narrow bodies and
totally
wide
know.
bodies.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
No, I think my brother is kind of wise beyond his age. He's 28, but then he's like this white bearded guy living on top of the mountain, like got everything figured out and so chill and
I'm just thinking like Master Shifu
Yeah,
from Kung Fu
exactly.
Panda or something like that.
yeah.
Oh, I would say, I mean, yeah, when we mentioned brother, like even though my brother is younger than me, but people think that I'm the younger sister. I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but I'll take it as a win. But yeah, I think that's my brother does come off a little bit older than he is. But yeah, I've met people in my life who I'm like completely surprised at how old they are, but the way they carry themselves is young and may not be in the best way possible. Like maybe they need to dress their age or whatever. And then there's some younger people that I've met that are old, like basically older than what they are. They seem older than what they actually are, but also to the point of like maybe you need to also hang out with people your age too instead. So it's just almost like there's a balance, but I think there are also like people who are in general just like a lot wiser than they come off, and I think it's a lot of it has to do with like upbringing, the people that has poured into their lives, and yeah, so age sometimes you can't tell like spiritual and emotional maturity based on space on age. It's definitely not, it doesn't correlate sometimes. Okay, so the first group that was actually addressed was the older men, and there were qualities that were singled out for the older men, which was listed in Titus 2:2. And basically they're talking about being sober-minded, which is free from addictions; dignified, which is worthy of respect, honorable, noble; then self-controlled, being sound in mind; and then sound in faith, love, steadfast. Basically this forms the means or cause and motivation for the previous listed virtues. So like maybe let's take some time to talk about like the older men that we look up to and the qualities that they have.
I don't know my grandfather very much, but I do look up to him in terms of he's very good with handcraft. Same as my father, actually. My grandfather is very good at tinkering. He used to work in audio.
I wonder why.
Wow, it's like it never skipped a went down a generation.
Yeah. And my father is also very willing to do acts of service. Yeah, his love language is definitely acts of service.
Also as
Does
seen
he also
in
like to do music?
No. But he has a very inquisitive mind.
wow,
Like he
it's
like to ask why, and why is this here? What
I
is this?
wonder. Exhibit like A right here. It's almost like skips wow. It's like basically okay, yes,
Okay.
explains so much behind how Keith works.
For me, I think some older men that I would look up to are, I would say like God's generals, people like Bill Johnson. Another one I look up to is Todd White. I feel one thing that I really want to do is like to pick their brain, like see what their triumphs were, like what are their do's and don'ts, kind of like see what worked for them and try replicate how they got there, and also what did not work for them, and so that's something for me to avoid. I think those are kind of the qualities I'd kind of like be more curious about, I guess.
Yeah. I think there are a lot of like male figures in my life that I really look up to besides my dad. I think there's also like, Pastor Jung, and these are like three men who have like poured into my life, and I think they all have like different qualities, whether it be like a hunger to learn all the time, or like, a spiritual, like a father's heart, or like generosity, value, and family. I think just like different things like that. And I think all of like, the men that I look up to in my life, I feel like they all have these qualities, that they are sober-minded, they are dignified, self-controlled, and sound, and faith, love, and steadfastness. I think like definitely for my dad, it's just the way he is steadfast in taking care of my mom as well. I think that's really inspiring too. So yeah, I think like, men, like these qualities are singled out. Like I think these are just like such important qualities to have, and not, I mean, again, not just for men, but also for just like anyone. All right, so the second group that was addressed was older women. Sometimes I wonder what's the age range that that they're referring to in the passage, because it's kind of funny, like off track. I remember just remembering this meme, and then about like women in their ages, like back in the Regency period or something. And so basically, apparently, if you're between the ages of 23 to 26, you're a spinster. 26 to 29, thornback. 29 to 35, you're known as the Venus death trap. 35 to 40, you're Lady of the Blade. 40 to 45, you're Fanged Dowager. And then 45 plus, it says terrified silence, shifting eyes. If you speak of her, she will know and she will show you no mercy. But yes, that is a meme that I saw about like the different age ranges of women. But anyways, very off track.
Such grimness.
What are those titles?
I heard those titles. I mean, Lady of the Blade sounds like pretty, power right there. It's just my handle, Lady of the Blade. No. So, anyways, back to older women. In Titus chapter 2, verses 3 to 5, one of the things that older women are asked to do is to be reverent in behavior, and one of the things that emphasizes how like a woman's role at home is sacred. So. So I think obviously the go-to women in our home would be our moms, or maybe our grandmothers, godmoms if we have. So what are some things that you have learned from these women? Like maybe it had an effect on how you interact with others or whatever. But yeah, what are some things you learned from older women in your life?
I remember in Proverbs, there's a saying, living in the desert is better than having a nagging woman in your house.
Jeez.
Are you talking about your own experience?
No. But then
Is this Proverbs according to Keith?
But then sometimes the nagging is, I interpret it as like this strong love and care for you. So I get a lot of reminders from my mother to take care of my physical health and mental health, and I really appreciate that.
Oh, nice.
Even though I don't usually
Listen.
follow. Yeah, listen. And she always reminds us to forgive. Yeah, in family, at work, wherever, not to harbor any bitterness. Yeah.
I think when you're younger, like all you hear is nagging, but then when you're older, it's like, oh, mom loves me. But,
Yeah, I was gonna double down on that and say the same thing, that like I think younger self would have took like, actually yeah, exactly what you said, Pat. That my younger self would have saw everything as complaints. But I think as I got older, I was able to kind of like decipher the like I get the message and then find the meaning, and I kind of get rid of the rest. And actually that under all that scrutiny and criticism, there's actually so much care. Right, and so I think that's one thing I picked up from my mom, is that like don't just be so quick to don't judge a comment by the cover of its.
Don't judge a comment by the cover of its book.
No,
Yes,
no,
definitely.
it didn't work. Don't judge the book based off its cover.
Yes, correct.
Yes,
He
but
almost
in the
got there.
form of comments, and you get the point.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, I was just rewatching Inside Out 1 last night.
Oh,
and so
yeah.
it's like this blue sadness core memory.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then after you experience the sadness, you could like turn it into
To
like
joy.
yellow joy.
Yeah. Some of the things that I've learned from my mom is definitely the way she sets time aside for God. Like for how Pastor Ed talks about like study the word and spend time in prayer, and even we heard like John Dewey speak like what's more important, reading the scripture or praying. Is basically asking, is it what's more important, inhaling or exhaling? So my mom is the one person who exhibited pursuing God in the sense of setting a time aside to pray and to read the word. So it's like shuts the door, goes in a room, we know mommy is spending time with the Lord, so don't bother her unless the house is like burning down, kind of thing. So in a way that kind of like rubbed off me as well. It's like, okay, like how can I also follow suit, set aside time? Because even, sometimes like, as a kid, when you're on summer holidays, like, oh, summer holiday, I can take a break from God. She doesn't take a break from God. She basically also, in the summer, spends time in the morning with God while the kids are outside like, oh, can we go? Let's go. Okay, she's spending time with Jesus. Better leave her alone. So, yeah. So she definitely, that's something I learned from her.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so that was second group of women, older women. Okay, third group. The third group that's mentioned is the younger women. I like to think I'm in this category. But I'm technically not in this category because it's in Titus 2:4-5 is referring to younger wives. Yeah, definitely not a category. And basically it's talking about like submissive to husbands and what that actually means. And so the idea is that it's the husband is not to demand, obey me, woman, but to really love the wife as a church. And it's a headship, not dictatorship. It's servant leadership. And so submission is a voluntary response that flows out of submission to God from the women. So I know, like, if you were to tell like a modern day woman, oh, submit to your husbands, I think they might receive some pushback. As in you would receive pushback on like saying that kind of statement. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this topic? Like, have you had interactions with women who would, be like, submission to husband? No.
I feel a quick detour of okay, Pat, I don't know if you can relate, and I don't know if you can relate, but like for us guys that we all have this one wild friend that when they like they're really irresponsible person, and when they get married, they're like, oh, you're getting married. And you're like, oh dear. And the fact that and there is this one person I know who's kind of like who is married, and I would say is a little irresponsible.
Wait, guy or female? A guy. Okay.
The husband is irresponsible, and I sometimes see how the wife still like keeps up with his
antics.
How much he's slacking off. I'm like, wow, I have a lot of respect for the wife now.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I think in that marriage is where I can really see like that is like submission, and therefore that marriage is gonna last. Yeah.
Well, I mean, speaking of marriage, I attended quite a number of wedding ceremonies, and I usually pay a lot of attention to what they say when they give acknowledgements at the end.
Oh, like I said, I like to thank my mom.
Yeah. And I noticed that the trend is usually the bride thanking a lot of people for tolerating her imperfections and treating her like a princess or something. And I always have a big question mark. And is that really a good qualities for a wife?
Oh, right. I'll say, please don't treat me like a princess. Like, I mean, well, okay, no, that sounds kind of bad. Like, yes, treat me great. Treat me nice. But don't treat me like I'm fragile. I think that's the main thing. Because, I think women should be cared for and loved for, but I don't think we should be like, I don't know, like put on a pedestal.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. I think we put on a pedestal, like that just makes us like you're worshiping us, not God. Yeah.
But many women like that, many young women like that.
Yeah, maybe.
Like in the video commentaries, their dating selection criteria
is being treated like a princess.
Is like height, money, being treated very well at the expense of the guy. And it's almost like you don't really need a guy, you need a servant.
Servant leadership, am I right? Yeah, no, that's
not true love.
Yeah, that's not true. That's just because I mean, you also want to be like balanced, right? Yes, you want your woman to also like stand strong and be all that, but you also don't want the woman to emasculate the man as well. And because I think I've seen relationships where the man is so whipped that he has no backbone whatsoever. And then you also have some relationships I've seen where the woman is just so like catering to the guys every whim and need. It's like she
Yeah.
has no backbone as well, and then it's just like one's being bulldozed over guy or girl. So I think the woman to submit to the husband, again, like what we mentioned, is out of submission to the Lord, and kind of like trusting that the husband is the head of the household. And the husband also needs to show that he is like the head of the household as well, and not like some guys like, I don't know what to do. I mean, it's kind of hard to submit to that too as well. So
I noticed Kanye West.
Kanye West.
It's like forcing his wife to be near naked.
Oh yeah, and all that stuff. No, that was not. That was.
I'm like, whoa, why is this so like bulldozed?
Yeah, and it's like she became someone that she probably wasn't. So, not that I would really watch it Keeping Up with the Kardashians, but maybe we'll see their life there. Anyways, okay, let's talk about the fourth and final group, which is the younger men. The younger men, and one of the things that's mentioned about is self-control. So, and I think it's again not just for the young men but also for women as well, is what are some areas in our lives that we struggle with self-control?
Pleasure indulgence.
Yeah.
It's like I cannot control my dessert intake.
That's one thing that you're not allergic to, right?
That is something I'm allergic to.
Oh, okay.
But you still consume it.
Happy birthday, Keith!
and then like when I get sad, I just binge movie or TV or video games
same.
at night.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, same.
Like despite being very tired, and you have to sleep at a certain time.
Yeah, it's like just one more episode, just one more level, and then it's like, if I just solve this puzzle, I'm fine. And then it's like 2 hours later. Oh, it's time to bed. Yeah.
So eating too much, spending too much is definitely something I need to work on.
Yeah. Same.
I'd say same.
Yeah, same. I think it's a younger people problem, I guess.
Just one more reel.
First world problem.
First world problems.
Oh no.
But at the end of the day, like, like I mentioned earlier, a healthy church is 4 generations, and I think at some point in our life we're gonna go through, these life stages, and I think it's important to also have mentors in our lives. We talked about the call for discipleship last time, and what it looks like to be disciple, and what it looks like to disciple other people, and I think, it's important to have mentors in our life to kind of speak into our lives and also help us grow in our craft as well. And so I think each age group has its part to play in the church. And so I think some things we can talk about is first of all, what are some of the common cultural views about the purpose and value of different stages of life that you have heard, experienced?
Well, to my understanding, nowadays young people do not want to settle in terms of romantic relationships.
Yeah.
It's like, is this still friends with benefits, or is even more free?
I mean, love is love. They can have relationship with whoever it is. Doesn't matter. It's like male, female. I mean, there's that different values. Yeah. But then also I think if I read an article in SCMP recently, a lot of women in China who don't get married, they move out of China to go to Europe to start afresh, because they're just not finding a partner, I guess.
Yeah. While in the West, people call the guys who move to other countries to find a wife passport bros or something.
Oh, passport bros. I've never heard of that before. There's the joke where there's the Korea plan, where when people graduate, they go to Korea, teach English, and find a wife. So, which actually some people have had that happen.
Whoa.
But,
yeah.
But I think maybe stereotypical views is if you're younger, you're more valuable. If you're older, you're not as valuable, or maybe it's you're older or we have to listen to you. I think it's just it's almost like, is there a past expiration due date, when as you get older? So I feel like that's some of the views that we have as well.
Yeah. And I just read a forum post. It's like, if you're a man at 30 years old, you don't have an apartment, you're a loser.
Oh yeah, that's a view too.
Yeah.
Or like if you're still living with your parents, like what's up with that?
What's up? Yeah.
But it's different, right? Because in Asia, like that's the way to go. But and I remember hearing someone in Europe talk about how like at the age of 18 they kicked their son out of the house, not because they didn't love him, but because they're like, you gotta go grow up. So interesting. So so then we talked about like the different generations, different stages, right? And then it's also like there's the importance of like modeling godly behavior for the next generation. And like I mentioned, we all are potentially going to go through one stage in our life. So we've been in the younger end, and eventually we're going to end up in the older end. And I guess I'm easing towards the older end right now, the lady of the blade. So it's there's that too, that we need to be aware of that. And finally, it's like, how can we cultivate an atmosphere in church where people of all ages feel valued, respected, equipped to serve according to your gifts and abilities? Like I was talking to someone, and I think she was asking like, is there a ministry for retired people? And I was like, actually, I don't know if there is one. Maybe there used to be one, but then but also it's like, I understand like there is a need for like ministry to retirees, but then also it's like if we have everything so segregated, it feels as though like, oh, you must be retiree to enter this ministry, or you must be married to enter this ministry. So it's like, how can we cultivate? I think that's something that's on my mind, is like, how do you cultivate an atmosphere that all ages, all life stages can serve, no matter like and they don't feel like restricted.
Well, I haven't personally experienced what I heard, but some churches prioritize family members after fellowship. So maybe after an event, and they would say something like, "Oh, those with kids can go now, and all the singles will leave behind and pack up and
clean up." Okay.
Clean up. Yeah. And that kind of makes the singles feel sad.
Yeah, because
And I always hear that church can let young people make decisions in church. But I'm not sure how that would work out.
I mean, I think like at ICA, we do empower the younger generation to do things, and I think I am a product of that, I think. And so I think I appreciate the space to do that here. And definitely we need to cater to all generations in different life stages. We don't want to just focus on the married. We also want to focus on the singles, the youth, the children, and maybe those who are who lost partners too, who are single parents because maybe just for unfortunate reasons it happened, or different races as well. I think the idea is that when you walk into church, no matter what life stage, no matter what background, no matter what culture, is that you feel welcomed. You don't want to be so like homogenous. It's like when you walk in, you're like, I'm definitely feel the weird one out. Like for example, in the States, I was in a Korean American church, and I represented 25% of the Chinese there. So you could feel like, I felt very like, okay, this church is like very Korean, and I don't know if I belong here. And truth be told, I kind of like stopped going to that church for a bit because I'm like, it's too Korean. I don't think I belong here. But then, despite that, I chose to go back because at that time I was just looking for churches. I didn't know what to do, but so I went back. And I think what I appreciated about that church was also the fact that you could see the different generations that was going on there. You've got the ajumas and the ajashis, next door, like the older, Koreans, and then you've got the English-speaking Koreans who grew up in, in the States. And then I was serving in their middle school ministry then, and in that team it was quite multi-generational. If you had parents, college students, working adults, and it was really quite something to really serve together. So I think that like in that sense, like yes, it was very Korean, but then also like I think life stages wise, it felt like really cool to serve with different ages. And I think I see that here in ICA, is that you've got different generations serving together. So I think we are trying to cultivate that, and continue to do so.
It's like that article we read earlier, that the worship team needs more diverse people.
Oh, oh yeah. That was an article that was going circulating. But yeah, worship team needs more diverse people. I think our worship team does have diverse people. We have retired people. We have youth. We have working adults. So
Yeah.
I think we can try to represent all the different life stages and all that we do. I mean, realistically speaking, maybe not in every single situation, but I think naturally, I think if we create an atmosphere that feels it's welcoming, then I think no matter the age or life stage, you just feel like, oh, I can step up and serve. It doesn't feel like, oh, this is not for me. So, and I think that's what it looks like to be right living towards each other is, honestly, I think if I wasn't like working in a church or have a relationship with the Lord, I don't think I would interact as well with older or younger people, to be honest. Like I always see that separate divide, like as a younger, I think, as Asians, we grew up, right? And then it's like, oh, older people must respect, stay away, like especially in family dinners, as a children's table, and then as the adults table, I'm always on the children's table, right? So you don't really interact with the older folks. So I think if anything, like working at church or just growing up in church, doing life with people, with Christians, I don't think I've seen myself interacting with people of life stages that I've never imagined I would. So, which is cool. I learned so much from everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, never thought I would work with youth. So, yeah, honestly, was terrified of youth. Don't tell anyone that. But, yeah. Anyways, so, going back to the book of Titus, it's all about right living towards each other. So, and it's a process. So maybe continue to just grow in our walk with God in sound doctrine and be a godly example to all around us. Cool. Well, that's that for today. Thanks for joining us, and we will catch you next week. Bye.
Bye.